Welcome back, everybody. Wow, this is like the, how can I put this? The intermission in between cool stuff. Because what do we got to do? Well, in order to fit the intercooler, to connect the turbocharger that we built to the intake manifold that we built, what do we have to do? Well, we have to first figure out what's going to be in the way. And it's much more important to have, I'm going to put the power steering pump in, put the alternator in, pretty much the same thing as the the Sport Quattro. I want to use the same belt, commonality. You know, I'm not going to use the same alternator, use the same power steering pump, but I want commonality on belts. And I looked at that one, that was a Gates 7445, I think it is. And I looked it up and it was from some BMW. It's like, huh, how did I get that? You know, but that's beside the point. I think it's probably from E36. I'm going to order a bunch of those belts because what I want is I want a standard belt, and I'm going to do it to my Air Quattro upstairs because I want a standard belt for all of them. So if I order like a half a dozen belts, I know I always have one in stock if one gets thrown or broken or whatever. And I know if I have to take one car somewhere and I need to get that car going, and the belt pops off, I know I can go steal it from another car. So that's a good thing and a bad thing that you have on multiple cars. But beside the point, this is going to be kind of a review of what I did to the Sport. So if you didn't see that one, I'll do the same thing here, and I'll show you what I found out. I also found something pretty interesting with the cylinder head. So let me pull this bumper off, and we will get on to putting the power steering pump and the alternator on this to make it actually look cool, and be serviceable. That's a big thing. So let's get right to that. First thing is, I have the plate, 1/4 inch steel, drill 2 holes, for the mounting. This was the old mounting studs down here for the alternator, for the normally aspirated one, the AC for the turbocharged ones. And just make sure you clean everything off of those mounting tabs to make sure you get this plate absolutely flat with the most amount of contact on the block. Gives you the most amount of strength, first principles. Second thing is I put a piece of angle line here to align up the pulleys. Now we're not going from the outside position of the pulleys. We have to go on the inside where the middle portion, actually it's easier to see on this, where that V-groove stops, the actual middle portion, and the middle portion on this they have to line up. It's not the external pulley and the external pulley here. What it is this thing is a lot thinner than the crank pulley, and I measured out, and this shim fits it exact. So this will pretty much give me exactly where I want it to do and where I'm going to cut. Now, there's also another thing we have to consider. When we have this power steering pump on, just like with the Sport, we have to angle it a certain way. Because if you can see it, there are 3 bolts inside here, and this is cut out on the side. Now, what I have to do is be able to put this at a position so I can undo these 3 bolts, undo these 3 bolts, and pull the pump completely out without having to remove the mount. I don't want that, so it's just a lot easier this way. So what I gotta do is I'm gonna put this back on, and I'm gonna mark it up, cut it. That way I guarantee that I can get everything off here, get the pump off. Okay, we're gonna go from there. So without any further ado, let me just throw this up and start marking it out. Well, this thing looks very, very straight. It looks like it's dead nuts on. So, pretty happy with that. Next thing we have to get to the alternator. One thing I found out about this car when I was cleaning out all the holes was, you can see this right here. this stud or this a boss on the head is gone, and it looks like it's been gone for like 20 years. I have no idea what happened to this motor to do this. This is pretty rare. But am I going to weld something on it? No, I'm just going to go grab a different head. So what I got to do now is I got to pull the intake manifold off. I'll pull the turbo off so I could just, so it won't break my back when I pull it off. Then I'm just going to take all this stuff off, pull it off, throw a different head on it. When I come back, you're not going to see the vacuum pump because it's actually an early head. Then I'm going to throw on it. It's just a crappy head, but these bosses right here for the manifold, for the original power steering, but for our new alternator bracket will be there, and I can build to it. So that's kind of the thing. So I thought I'd let you know before you take a look at it. And say, hey, he swapped cylinder heads. Why did you do that? Well, that's why I did that. All right, let me. I'm going to pull the manifolds off, and I'll pull the intake manifold off. Pull the turbocharger off, so it's a little bit easier to manage, and that way I can take out the cam cover, and because I'd have to pull the throttle body off anyway to pull the cam cover up, because that's kind of the way I designed it. But there's only 2 bolts holding the intake on anyway, so, and there's 2 bolts holding the head on. Well, more things is just lots of fun. Plus I have to take the cam cover, the cam wheel off, or the pulley off, and a couple other things off, because I put this on just to make sure I can figure out the clearance for the alternator belt. All right, let me just do that now. All right, the holes are cleaned out. Now I can easily take the bolts and put them back in and out, and it'd just be easier. I can do it with my hand. What am I going to do for a mount? Well, here is the original mount. The original mount had the power steering pump, and it also had the lifting hook for the motor to get it out of the chassis. As you can see, the boss on here is a little raised. That is to accommodate the lifting hook, the width of that. Now, if we sit there and look at this and say, okay, this accomplished holding the power steering pump. It also accomplished a lifting hook for the motor. Well, I'm going to try and accomplish the same thing. What am I going to use? I'm going to use this. I found this, and you can take a wild guess. It's from a drafting table. It's about 1/4 inch thick steel. It's about, I'd say if that thing is like maybe 3/16, this is a 1/4 inch, which is 4/16 for everybody out there. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to put this right here. I know I can have 3 holes, so it fits securely and flat to the head. Then I'm going to cut it right here, lift it so it's actually vertical, so it's you can easily get the lifting hook on when you're pulling the motor out. And then we can build off of this steel plate to make the mounts for the alternator. I think it's going to work out fairly well. I mean, and also I have to kind of make a diagonal cut on it also, so I can get the spark plug lead out. So, in the spark plug out. That's another thing. So you have to think about maintenance down the road. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the mount from the power steering, transfer the holes to this, and then we're going to work from there. One thing also you're going to have to do, if you can see where this is, how it goes out a little bit, you're going to have to shave off this side to get it around the head. Here's the alternator that we're going to use, standard or quattro alternator. Nothing fancy. Use them on 5000s, you know. 90 amp. It's got to look the business. Now, the only thing is, this is the belt that I'm going to use, and I did look it up, and it does have a part number on it, which is great, the Gates 7445. And let's see roughly where it's going to be to miss the water pump. We don't want to do it perfectly yet, but we want to bring it as close and as far out as possible. So that right there should be rough on how it's going to be. So what do I got to do? Just going through the scrap pile. Let's see if we can make something up. Oh, I got to put my my steady rest on first. And that way I can get the exact thing, because it looks like it's going to have to, this thing is going to also have to use this shim right here to meet that. So pretty easy. This is the old mount from the previous alternator on the Sport Quattro. So, reusing. More reusing. Yay! Well, I've got my box of adjusters here. Alternator. It goes up. Belts are absolutely straight. Love it. Now we got to do an adjuster. I thought first. Remember the adjusters that we use for the Sport? You know, with the tooth knurling, basically, if you want to call it that, where you know, where it clamps down and locks pretty good. No way I can get this on there. And I'm sitting going, all right, well, what do I got to do now? Well, I took a look at this. This is the original mount for the alternators for the Quattros. If you take a look like this, this is how it is. This is on the block, or on the mount on the block, and the alternator actually just slides up inside here and they clamp it down. Always worked fine. So I'm looking at this going, well, how am I going to do this? And I thought to myself, all right, well, let's put this over here. Why don't we take this and invert it? I didn't know if it was going to work enough, so I just tried, I just put it in there. Spoiler alert. But that's... Now, take a look at this. We have two pieces side by side. And and actually it's a lot of clamping force, but how are we going to do it? I was thinking about putting it on here, too small. Putting it on here won't fit. So I'm sitting there going, well, interesting. I can go up like this and have this lock into here, but it has not enough downward momentum. How can I put this? A downward adjustment to get the belt off quickly, So what else did I think? I said, all right, well, I have this. What it is that, all right, I'm going to try and kill two birds with one stone. Right here's the water pump, and here's the power steering pump. If I put this, pull this bolt out right there, and bolt this in, this pretty much aligns with this mount right here. So what I have to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right there, bolt this to here. That way it gives me a much, how can I put this, it gives me more stability for the power steering pump. It gives me 2 points of contact, the single point down here, second point up here. This locks up, and then I'm going to use this with a bolt through here as an adjuster, so it'll go up and down. And if I go up like this, and it's right on that bolt. I can pull the alternator belt right off. I think that's going to work. In practice, will it work? I don't know, But it gives me plenty of adjustment that I know I can work on it, So, and it should be pretty good, only time will tell. So what I got to do is I got to sit there and I got to slice this up here, bolt it onto here, then weld it onto the front of this. That way it'll give me a place to put a bolt inside here. And it'll supposedly work out. Whether or not it does is another thing, But I think it'll work. If it doesn't, you know what? I'm just going to redo it. So let me cut this up and I will get this pretty much squared away. What do you think? Not bad. This right here, actually, you know what? It looks kind of cool. I like it. Alternator's right there. This is exactly where I want it. The belts are absolutely straight, right on the pulleys, no problem. One thing I want to do before I end up the episode, because we need to put the rest of the stuff that's inside here. Next is the radiator, and I'm not sure, but I got to figure out where I want the reservoir for the power steering pump. If it's going to be on this side, I got to put it in. If it's going to be on the other side, I'm not going to put it in. But let's first put the radiator in, because I'm going to use a stock radiator with, of course, expansion abilities. Now that we've got most of the frame rail cleaned up for where we're going to put the lower mount and the side mount for the radiator, this is actually the radiator mount that came off of this car, the bottom part of the chassis. What I got to do is I'm just going to trim it out. I'm trying to leave as much metal as possible so I don't have to add metal. But if I do, I do. But you know, I'm just going to trim this out here, trim it out here and here. That way, this section right here is going to be the bottom of the radiator. You know, it's just a stock mount. And I'll put it down there. I'll attach it to the radiator, put it up, and we'll figure out exactly where it's going to go. I'm setting the radiator height by the stock location. This mount was flat on this. This is what it's on. The only problem is this thing might be a little higher as in the elevation of the slope of the hood, but I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. I used a 2x6 chunk with a hole drilled in it to hold up the bottom. I want to weld this thing in first. I'm going to pull this back out, weld it back in, and then I am going, or tack it in. Then I'm going to set the height for the main spot, or the main mount for the bottom of the radiator. All right, the last thing we're doing is we're fitting the power steering pump reservoir. All right, first considerations are we have to have it above the power steering pump in order for it to feed into the power steering pump. That's one thing that we have to do. Second thing is we have to have it over here to keep it as most out of the airflow, plus it'll give us airspace to put in a pipe for the intercooler. We also have to do one other thing. That's the reason why I have to grill. I want to put it roughly, it's about roughly in. And if I put it right here, okay, it's not even going to conflict the grill, so we don't want to cut it. That's a good thing. So if it's going to go right here, I have to make it how can I put this, a relief cut right there. But I have to make a plate that goes all the way down and attaches to this plate right here, you know, to stabilize the hood pin and the entire headlight section. So let me just clean this up. Clean that up. I'm going to weld this in a little bit just because one of the tacks broke. I'm just going to weld this in, and then I'm going to put this on here, figure out exactly where it is, weld it on, and that'll be it. Then I'm going to mark out where I'm going to cut right here so I can actually pull the power steering pump reservoir in and out, no problem. Small things. All right, let me get my goggles on and let's just clean that up. We're done. Look at it. It's cool as shit. But I keep saying that about everything, you know. What do? We have the power steering pump down low, alternator up high. We have a lifting hook that's going to be able to lift up the engine. I have not set it to vertical. I have to pull everything apart, slice it, weld it in the back. Yeah, I just didn't do it. Power steering pump reservoir on. We can pull the cap off. It gravity feeds into the power steering pump, and yes, all these fittings, they're all closed up, so there's no shit gets inside there. We have the radiator basically set up. The bottom one is just tacked, and well, both of them are just tacked. I'm going to wait and pull everything out. Then I'm going to brace everything and make it look decent. Other than that, uh, you know, this is a lot amount of stuff that now we can put the front bumper on and put the intercooler in and close up the system that we need to do for the, you know, for the piping system. I figure the intercooler is going to come out here and just go right in, and I think that's how it's going to look. But I don't know until I actually put it in. And other than that, thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate it, you know. And remember, none of this is hard. I'm just looking into a trash bin and, you know, let's see if it works. That's it. You know, you can do it. I'm nothing special. I'm just some hillbilly in here in New Hampshire, you know. I should paint them all flat black and run moonshine. Why not? All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye now.